He ghosted me, like I was a bill he forgot to pay. Things were going well, which should have been the first red flag. Right, so apparently I was in a functioning situationship. I know, that was my first mistake. Because in my experience, the moment a man texts back within 10 minutes and uses actual punctuation, that's not a green flag. That's the universe flashing a massive neon sign that says, "Run, he's about to emotionally defraud you." But of course I didn't run. I smiled like a moron and thought, wow, maybe I won't die alone surrounded by cats who resent me. His name was Jay. Of course it was. Sounds like someone who owns too many beanies and thinks emotional availability is an astrological sign. We met at a birthday party. One of those events where everyone pretends to be having fun while quietly assessing who they'd shag if the world ended tomorrow. He offered me a drink. I offered him my trauma in exchange. Match made in millennial heaven. We started texting, constantly, and not just the wide at 2 a.m. sort. He actually double texted, sent gifs, told me I was funny. Which is how you know a man's about to destroy you. They always laugh right before the emotional hit and run. We did brunch, walks, shared playlists. You know, the kind of stuff people do right before someone gets ghosted and starts questioning if they hallucinated the entire relationship. One time he said I made him feel safe. Safe, which I now realize is male code for, "You're perfect, so I'll disappear before you realize I'm emotionally constipated." But back then, I was floating in a blissful bubble of delusion. I thought, maybe this one's different. Maybe I won't have to emotionally detach every time I hear a voice note ping. So I texted him. Casual, chill, innocent. "Hey, fancy brunch Sunday? Found this new place that does red velvet waffles and emotional stability." And then, silence. Not the good kind. Not the oops, I'm in a tunnel silence. No, this was dead grandma in a Hitchcock film silence. I gave it time. I'm not needy. I'm just chronically overinvested. 3 hours pass. Nothing. Then 6. Still nothing. Next morning, not even the decency of a blue tick. Just pure, unfiltered, soul-scorching ignore. Like I'd texted a brick wall. A sexy, emotionally detached brick wall with commitment issues. Obviously, I assumed he was dead, because I'm sane. I checked everything. WhatsApp, online, Instagram, thriving. He literally posted a story from a rooftop bar like he hadn't just erased me from his narrative. Caption, vibes. Vibes? Sir, you have the audacity to curate vibes while I spiral into a hole of self-loathing and existential snack binges? I even zoomed in on the background to see if maybe he was with his dying Nan or something. Spoiler, he wasn't. Unless Nan suddenly became a 24-year-old blonde with a vape and daddy issues. And just like that, he vanished. No warning, no closure. Not even a lol saws I'm a coward. He ghosted me like I was a subscription trial he forgot to cancel. Like I was a bill he knew existed but just decided not to pay. One day we're planning brunch and talking about whether coriander tastes like soap. It does. And the next, I'm talking to the void, like some pathetic Victorian widow whispering into the wind, "Come back, Charles." And let me be clear, there were no red flags. Not even pink. I didn't mention kids. I didn't ask for exclusivity. I didn't even bring up his Spotify Wrapped, which featured 3 Ed Sheeran songs. 3, and I still stayed. That's loyalty. So now I'm here. No brunch. No Jay. Just me, scrolling through our old messages like I'm in a BBC drama where everyone dies and no one ends up happy. I told myself I'd be fine. Strong, independent. A woman who doesn't need a man. But also, what the hell, Jay? At least leave me on read like a civilized ghost. Honestly, this is what dating's like now. A man will emotionally bond with you, hold your hand through a trauma dump, quote Fleabag at you, then vanish like a bad Wi-Fi signal, and we just live with it. Anyway, I've now entered the revenge glow-up stage of my grief, which is less about looking good and more about fantasizing that he'll see me on a billboard one day with a caption that says, You could have had this, but you're too busy being emotionally unavailable on a rooftop bar, mate. Stay tuned, because this train wreck is just getting started. Ah, the post-ghost spiral. That exquisite dance of despair where you spend more time in your pajamas than a particularly lazy cat and cry into carbs like they might somehow text back. Because obviously, the best way to cope with someone vanishing faster than your last shred of self-respect is to become a full-time digital detective. I dived headfirst into his socials like a CSI agent who's lost their badge, but gained a crippling obsession. And lo and behold, there he was, not dead, not trapped in a witness protection program, but shockingly alive and employed. Yes, employed. How utterly revolting. There he was, posting pictures with the smug satisfaction of a man who clearly thinks ghosting is an Olympic sport, and he just bagged the gold medal. I made mental notes, took screenshots. Because if you don't document your emotional destruction, did it even happen? He'd curated a playlist called New Beginnings. Lovely. Because nothing says I'm moving on, quite like a carefully crafted Spotify playlist designed to rub salt into your festering wounds. Of course, it wasn't about me. Definitely not. It was about growth and self-care. Or so I told myself, lying on the floor with a tub of ice cream and a look that screams, "Please send help." My brain went into full-on fiction mode. Ghosted, a tragicomedy in 12 acts, featuring me as the tragic heroine and him as the ghost who vanished into the night like a magician with commitment issues. I wanted to text him. But no, that would be dignity, and dignity left the building the moment I realized I was ghosted by a grown man who thinks communication is optional. Instead, I scrolled through our messages, analyzing every word like a forensic linguist trying to decode a message from the abyss. Did I say something wrong? Was I too clingy? Too honest? Did I offend him by saying coriander tastes like soap? It does, fight me. Nope, nothing. Just silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than any excuse. It's the modern dating equivalent of being left on read by the universe itself. So there I was, left to drown in my own thoughts and a growing pile of uneaten snacks. Turns out, disappearing without a trace in the age of social media isn't just cowardly. It's an art form. And Jay was a bloody Picasso. Meanwhile, I'm left feeling like an unpaid bill that got lost in the post. But hey, at least I've got my sarcasm, and these carbs, they never ghost me. So there I was, invited to one of those utterly soulless networking events. You know, the kind where everyone's pretending their LinkedIn profiles actually mean something, and the only thing more fake than the smiles is the wine. Did I want to go? Absolutely not. Did I go anyway? Of course. Because free wine and bad decisions are the emotional staples that keep me upright in this circus called life. And what do you know? Walking in like a slightly hungover queen, who do I spot sipping something suspiciously expensive across the room? None other than his boss. Yes, the boss. Fate's idea of a practical joke, clearly. Fate, bless its twisted soul, leaned in and said, "Hold my drink, love. This one's for you." At that moment, I decided it was time to weaponize what little charm I had left, and cleavage. Because if karma's going to show up, she might as well look damn good doing it. I sauntered over with the kind of confidence you fake when you've had exactly 3 glasses of wine and 0 give a damn left in your tank. The boss was surprised to see me, probably expecting a timid ex-girlfriend or some poor soul lost in the sauce. Instead, I gave them the full package, equal parts sarcasm, sass, and a hint of, "I'm not here to make friends, but I might just ruin your employee's reputation." Networking was never meant to be fun, but watching karma in heels work its magic, now that's priceless. I showed up dressed like revenge, and Heartbreak had a love child who also happened to have excellent credit and a wardrobe budget. You know, the kind of outfit that screams, "I'm not just here to look good, I'm here to remind you what you lost and make it sting a bit." Walked into that room like I'd already won some lawsuit I never bothered to file. The emotional equivalent of flashing your "I'm right and you're an idiot" badge. Found the boss, a proper silver fox, complete with an expensive watch and, judging by the company, seriously questionable taste in people. He looked like the kind of man who'd use a Mont Blanc pen to write, "Please explain your existence" on a resignation letter. I smiled at him like I didn't just spend the entire night before Googling every embarrassing scandal he's ever been involved in. Spoiler, there were more than a few. Karma's cheeky that way. It was the kind of smile that says, "I know your secrets, and I'm here to have a little fun." Honestly, it felt less like a networking event and more like an emotional boxing match where I was already knocking out punches I hadn't thrown yet. All I needed was a glass of wine and a killer one-liner. Lucky for me, both were on tap. Oh, joy. Nothing screams, "I've got my life together," quite like flirting with the boss of the bloke who ghosted you. Because why settle for just one emotional dumpster fire when you can have a bonfire? I told jokes. Some were genuinely funny. Most were just desperate attempts to sound like I wasn't internally screaming. He told jokes too, the kind you'd find in a dad joke hall of fame, but I laughed anyway. You have to give the audience what it wants, even if the audience is just a slightly confused man with a watch probably worth more than my rent. Before long, I'd magically transformed into his favorite mysterious woman. The kind of enigma wrapped in charm, with just enough subtle shade to keep him curious but not suspicious. Because nothing says stable like hiding the fact you've stalked his junior employee's sudden vanishing act. Oh, joy. Nothing screams, "I've got my life together," quite like flirting with the boss of the bloke who ghosted you. Because why settle for just one emotional dumpster fire when you can have a bonfire? I told jokes. Some were genuinely funny. Most were just desperate attempts to sound like I wasn't internally screaming. He told jokes too, the kind you'd find in a dad joke hall of fame, but I laughed anyway. You have to give the audience what it wants, even if the audience is just a slightly confused man with a watch probably worth more than my rent. Before long, I'd magically transformed into his favorite mysterious woman. The kind of enigma wrapped in charm, with just enough subtle shade to keep him curious but not suspicious. Because nothing says stable like hiding the fact you've stalked his junior employee's sudden vanishing act like it was an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Spoiler alert. I let him think I was emotionally stable. Honestly, if there was an award for best pretend adult in a chaotic dating situation, I'd have the damn trophy on my mantle, probably next to a half-empty bottle of wine. Numbers were exchanged. Sanity was not. Somewhere between "here's my number" and "don't text me first," I lost any remaining grip on reality. But hey, at least I looked like I was winning. Flirting, as it turns out, isn't about butterflies or sparkly eyes. It's tactical warfare. Every laugh was a calculated move. Every smile a tiny battle won against the overwhelming urge to scream into the void. It's smoke and mirrors, but with more wine and less dignity. And just like that, I was officially playing the long game. Or at least trying not to lose my marbles while pretending I'd already won. So there I was, perched at the bar like a slightly dazed cat who's just realized the world is mostly chaos and disappointment. I'd perfected the "I'm fine thanks" smile, which is basically a cross between "please don't ask me about my feelings" and "I'm secretly about to cry in the toilets." Honestly, emotional stability was a myth, like unicorns or affordable London rent. He sidled over, because of course he did, wearing that boss of the year smirk and the kind of cologne that probably costs more than my entire wardrobe. I'm pretty sure he smelled like success, mixed with a hint of existential dread. We talked, I laughed, sometimes genuinely, mostly out of sheer survival instinct, and somewhere between, "Oh, you're so funny," and "What's your favorite kind of cheese?" I became the enigma he didn't know he was curious about. Mysterious, intriguing, slightly dangerous, or maybe just dangerously in need of a gin. Meanwhile, inside my head, the commentary was relentless. Remember, don't mention the ghosting. Do not bring up the fact that you've memorized his Instagram feed. Act normal, like a functioning adult. You've got this. Wait, what even is normal anymore? Does normal include Googling the boss's LinkedIn to check if he has a sense of humor? Probably not. Smile. Smile like your life depends on it, which it sort of does. I was basically an emotional juggler, keeping my chaos hidden behind layers of sarcasm and carefully timed laughter. And let's be honest, this is exactly what years of British politeness and awkwardness prepare you for. Pretending everything's fine while plotting your next witty retort in your head. At one point, he asked for my number. Yes, the holy grail of modern-day romance, handed over with the enthusiasm of someone who just agreed to a questionable Tinder date. I gave it, because what's the alternative? Pretending I wasn't interested while simultaneously plotting my own emotional ruin? No thanks. And just like that, I had a direct line into his world. A world where communication apparently requires a secret handshake or smoke signals, because clearly, talking wasn't really his thing. The whole night felt like a carefully choreographed dance where every step was a gamble. Would I come off as cool or clingy, charming or desperate? Spoiler, it was a bit of both. But that's the fun of flirting, isn't it? The glorious mess of pretending you've got it all together while your brain's screaming, "Abort! Abort! Emotional meltdown imminent." In the end, flirting wasn't about butterflies or heart eyes emojis. It was about tactical warfare. Smiling through the chaos, laughing to keep the tears at bay, and pretending that this whole ridiculous game might just be worth it. Because if you can't laugh at your own disaster, what's the point? In which I weaponize charm, cling to sanity by the hem of a cocktail dress, and accidentally become LinkedIn famous. We just clicked, which is posh talk for, I didn't insult his tie, and he didn't bring up Bitcoin once. Apparently, basic social functioning now qualifies as a spark. We love modern romance, so now I'm suddenly his +1 to events I used to mock from the safety of my pajamas. Coffee dates turned into strategy meetings with heart-shaped latte art. Dinners became networking opportunities. Read, men with napkin fetishes trying to flirt via foie gras. And charity galas? Darling, I was knee-deep in overpriced wine and morally confused silent auctions. I once bid on a speedboat. I don't even live near water. Meanwhile, Ghost Boy? Oh, he was still about, just haunting. Not in a sexy Phantom of the Opera kind of way. No. More in a you left your underwear here and I'm too proud to admit it kind of way. He'd pop up on my socials like a digital rash. Viewing stories at 2:14 a.m. Liking my post from 3 weeks ago. Sir, if you're going to lurk, at least have the decency to do it like a proper stalker. Anonymously and with conviction. But the pettiness? Oh, it was thriving. I may have accidentally posted a photo of myself sipping champagne at a rooftop bar, smiling next to his silver fox boss with the Rolex and the aura of, I've never cued in my life. Was it subtle? No. Was it savage? Also no. It was art. And let's talk about the boss. You know those men who wear cologne that smells like generational wealth and abandonment issues? That was him. Silver hair, custom suit, and the uncanny ability to make I started in private equity sound like foreplay. We got on weirdly well. He thought I was mysterious, which is a fun way of saying I didn't trauma dump my attachment issues onto his foie gras. He liked that I listened. I liked that he paid. It's called balance. Now, Ghost Boy? He was spiraling. I know because he started posting quotes. The kind of vague, passive-aggressive quotes you find on Instagram pages run by people who believe the moon controls their Wi-Fi. Sometimes silence is the loudest cry. Oh, babe, sometimes you're just a coward with a data plan. It got better. People, mutual friends, nosy ex-colleagues, a girl I once shared a bathroom queue with at uni, started messaging me. Is that him? Wait, are you dating the boss? OMG, are you okay? Yes, no. And absolutely not. But I looked fabulous while spiraling, so we call it a win. I was turning up everywhere Ghost Boy wasn't, looking emotionally stable and vaguely expensive. Meanwhile, he was probably lying in bed with crumbs on his chest, muttering something about soul ties and Spotify algorithms. And me? I was working the room like it owed me rent. I'd lean in during dinners and say things like, "Oh, you must know that new junior analyst? What's his name again?" Then blink slowly, let it hang. The boss would shrug, already bored. Delicious. I wasn't just dating. I was performing. For an audience of one, who pretended not to watch but checked my Instagram like it was a stocks app. Was it petty? Hugely. Regretful? Not even slightly. Did I cry in the loo between events? Obviously, but with waterproof mascara and dignity intact. Every time I received a "you look amazing" comment under a photo I specifically cropped to include the edge of the boss's Bentley, a small part of me healed. Or blackened further, who's to say? And when Ghost Boy finally messaged, because of course he did, it was some half-baked late-night attempt at connection. "Hey, hope we're good." No punctuation, no shame. Blocked before I could even finish my wine. Because this wasn't just revenge. This was narrative satisfaction. So no, I wasn't over him. But I was outgrowing him, like a bad fringe or that phase where I thought dating apps were a good idea. I'd leveled up. Emotionally, questionable. Aesthetically, 10 out of 10. Petty, yes. Petite, also yes, in heels. Powerful, I was practically floating. Starring me as calm, collected chaos, and him as a man publicly experiencing an existential crisis in Armani. The moment he saw me draped over his boss's arm like an expensive handbag with trust issues. Pure cinema. I swear I heard a distant orchestra swell. Probably just my ego conducting the strings. There he was, Ghost Boy, standing by the bar like an abandoned umbrella. Same stupid smirk, slightly less smug now. As if his plan had not involved me leveling up into a walking power move with lashes that could wound and a backless dress engineered by God himself. Our eyes met across the room, like a bad rom-com, but with more trauma and better lighting. I smiled. The smile. The one that says, "I know your secrets, darling, and they're boring." The one that says, "I'm wearing perfume that costs more than your rent." He looked surprised. Then confused. Then like someone had unplugged him and plugged him back in at factory settings. I watched his face cycle through all 5 stages of grief before his drink even made it to his lips. I could practically hear the Windows error sound in his brain. This emotional processing unit has stopped responding. Me? I turned back to his boss, who, bless him, was mid-story about mergers, or maybe wine, who knows. I nodded politely, laughed at the right moments, and only half considered making out with him just to see if Ghost Boy combusted. For a brief second, I did feel something. Not sympathy, not even pity. Just a small flicker of, oh, so this is what poetic justice feels like. Nice. Ghost Boy, meanwhile, was doing Olympic-level blinking. Like if he blinked hard enough, I'd turn into a hallucination. Or evaporate into thin air like he did from our last conversation. Hint, I didn't. I just got hotter and meaner. He looked at me like he wanted to speak. Say something clever, maybe. Redeem himself. But all that came out was awkward silence. The kind that hums. We stood there for a second in this weird, tension-soaked limbo. Him, frozen, baffled, possibly malfunctioning. Me, calm, radiant, rehearsing my Oscar speech in my head. I'd like to thank my ex for ghosting me and giving me the motivation to become the main character. Eventually, he shuffled away, like a sad little breadcrumb trying not to crumble. And oh, the poetic timing. Just as he turned, the boss slid a hand casually to the small of my back. A little she's with me moment, subtle, devastating. Ghost Boy saw it. Felt it. Internally died a bit. 10-10 would do it again. I spent the rest of the evening pretending I hadn't just watched a grown man have a mental breakdown in slow motion. Laughed, danced, toasted to absolutely nothing with expensive champagne. All while keeping one eye on him in the corner, sipping his whiskey like it might explain why the universe hates him now. Did I feel bad? Sure, in the same way you feel bad when your phone autocorrects hell to hill. Mildly annoyed by the effort, but not enough to change anything. Because here's the truth. He thought he could disappear and I'd stay stuck. He thought I'd spiral while he glowed up. But he underestimated just how strategically vindictive a woman with a wounded ego and a decent contour palette can be. And now? Now he gets to live with the knowledge that the girl he ghosted is currently being twirled around the dance floor by his boss. And no, not just his boss. The silver-haired, impossibly charming, carries a black Amex like a weapon boss. Ghost Boy glitched. Ghost Boy crumbled. Ghost Boy blinked at me like he was trying to tap out in Morse code. Help. I have made a terrible mistake. And I just smiled back. Because some disasters don't need fixing. They just need an audience. Or the ghost returns, now with more delusion and less dignity. And just like that, beep beep, my phone lights up like a warning sign from the universe. Hey, can we talk? Yes. The classic comeback of a man who's just realized his emotional tax evasion's been audited. Apparently, after weeks of radio silence and disappearing like my will to attend group dinners, Ghost Boy decided to rise from the dead. Not dramatically, mind you. No grand gestures or emotional reckonings. Just a limp little text with the emotional weight of an out-of-office reply. I stared at it for a full minute. Like it might start making sense if I blinked hard enough. Spoiler, it didn't. Let's be real. This wasn't, we need to talk, because he'd grown as a person or reflected on his sins in a Himalayan cave. No. This was, I saw you at that gala looking like a Vogue shoot and now I'm feeling things I can't spell. Apparently, I became fascinating the moment I was seen within 2 meters of a man with a premium watch and a LinkedIn following. Suddenly, I was worth a conversation. Amazing what a bit of career proximity and backless satin does for a man's memory. He said he missed me, which was cute, considering I don't recall him mentioning that when he was busy treating my existence like a pop-up ad he kept swiping away. I meanwhile missed my patience. Missed the days when I hadn't wasted mascara on this emotional car park of a man. He wanted to talk. Talk. Like we hadn't already completed the ghosting limbo heartbreak arc and skipped right to the me glowing while you spiral part. Honestly, it was almost poetic. Like watching your ex trip over their own ego in slow motion, then try to explain why it was your fault they face-planted. The audacity came wrapped in nostalgia. He tried the whole I've changed spiel, as if I was a tech update waiting for bug fixes. And bless him, he really believed it. Spoke with the confidence of a man who'd written 0 apology drafts and thought that was fine. I just feel like we had something real, he said. I nodded, mostly to keep from laughing. Yeah, mate, I had real food poisoning once. Doesn't mean I want it back. But it didn't stop him. Oh no. He launched into some half-baked monologue about fate, timing, and how he wasn't ready back then. Of course not. He was too busy ghosting people like it was a paid internship. He even dropped the big one. I never stopped thinking about you. I nearly applauded. What a line. Oscar-worthy. I mean complete fiction, but delivered with such trembling sincerity I almost let him finish before I reminded him, you forgot I existed until I became a conversation topic at work drinks. His ego? Shattered. Probably filed a complaint with HR and requested stress leave. He blinked, stunned like I'd just kicked his emotional puppy. And honestly, if that puppy was his sense of entitlement, then yes, I absolutely did. Because let's be clear, you don't get to ignore someone for weeks, reappear like a bad sequel, and expect them to clap because you remembered their name. That's not growth. That's narcissism in a nice shirt. In the end, I sent a reply. Brief, blunt, beautifully passive-aggressive. Thanks for the message, I'm good. Hope you are too. Translation: kindly go step on a Lego, but said with grace, because I'm a lady, and also petty. Or how I turned emotional debris into performance art. Ah yes, the closure talk. Because when a man ghosts you, reappears from the abyss, and has the emotional range of a teaspoon, obviously what you need is a face-to-face. In a coffee shop, at 2 p.m., on a Tuesday, because nothing screams emotional resolution like overpriced flat whites and a table wobbly enough to represent our entire relationship. He wanted to explain. Because apparently I was now his unofficial therapist, only without the hourly rate or ethical obligation to pretend I cared. I nodded like I was so invested, while internally debating whether I could fake a phone call to escape. He began with the classics. You know, the "I've been doing a lot of thinking" speech, as if he'd been off meditating in the Himalayas instead of avoiding eye contact and growing a beard out of guilt. "I didn't handle things well," he said, looking like he expected a gold star for basic self-awareness. "No kidding, Sherlock. You ghosted me like I was a tax bill. I listened because I'm kind, or at least I like to appear kind in public." Let him monologue like we were on some off-brand reality show called Men Who Discovered Accountability, 6 months too late. He apologized. Properly, to be fair. Tears in his eyes and everything, though that might have been the oat milk. And I accepted, not because I was moved or needed the apology. Oh no, I accepted because I had dinner plans in 45 minutes, and frankly, I was already emotionally checked out and mentally picking my starter. Then came the pièce de résistance. I told him breezily, like I wasn't waiting to drop this line all week. "I'm seeing someone." Silence. Real, heavy, ego-crushing silence. The kind of pause that deserves a BAFTA. He blinked. Once. Twice. Like his brain had crashed and was now buffering. I sipped my drink with the smugness of someone who knew this moment would fuel me for at least 3 Mercury retrogrades. His soul visibly packed a suitcase. You could practically hear it whisper, "Well, we tried," as it slipped out through his pores. He muttered something like, "Oh, that's good," which is what people say when they want to cry into a napkin, but are too emotionally repressed to try. Then, and this bit was almost touching, he leaned in and said, "I'm really happy for you. Darling, if you were any more unconvincing, I'd have to call an ambulance for your pride." I smiled, hugged him goodbye. Soft, polite, a bit of a there pat. But spiritually, I handed him the world's fluffiest hug, with a metaphorical slap to the ego mid-embrace. Because closure, my dear, isn't about mending hearts. It's about winning the scene with grace, excellent lighting, and just the right amount of smug restraint. And me? I walked out of that coffee shop like I'd just closed a deal on revenge. Back straight. Lipstick untouched. Plans in place. Because the past may knock. But I only answer if it brings wine, flowers, or a 5-figure apology check. Because closure tastes better when it's served in heels, with a side of pettiness and Pinot. Let's get one thing straight, shall we? Whether things lasted with the boss, Mr. Silver Fox with the watch that cost more than my rent, and the morals of a wet napkin, is entirely beside the point. I was never auditioning to be Mrs. CEO. This wasn't about romance. It was about resurrection, mine. And revenge, also mine, preferably with minimal effort and maximum aesthetic. Did it matter if we fizzled out after the gala circuit and 6 overpriced dinners? Absolutely not. I'd already won. And not just metaphorically, I mean I genuinely walked away with upgraded career prospects, Instagram followers, and the sweet, sweet satisfaction of watching Ghost Boy slowly combust like a sad sparkler at a rain-soaked bonfire night. Because here's the thing. Revenge isn't loud. Loud is for people who throw drinks and scream outside clubs. I'm more of a passive-aggressive smile in a backless dress kind of girl. Mine was subtle. Mine was stylish. Mine involved no screaming, no begging, no tear-stained voicemail at 2 a.m. His, not mine, let's be clear. Just a woman thriving, and a man flinching every time my name came up in a meeting. There were no dramatic showdowns. No how could you. No please take me back. Just me existing, loudly, elegantly. Like a plot twist in a novel he didn't bother to read until chapter 37, right before the tragic ending. And Ghost Boy? He faded. As he should. Like a free trial you forgot you even signed up for until it started charging your card again. Drifted back into irrelevance. Where, let's be honest, he was always most comfortable. Now he's just one of those people you see on LinkedIn who still uses ninja in their job title. A cautionary tale wrapped in a business casual polo. Meanwhile, I went on to do remarkably well for someone allegedly too emotional and intense and hard to read. Translation: he couldn't manipulate me anymore and it made him deeply uncomfortable. So yes, in the end there was a plot twist. Just not the one he expected. Because I wasn't the victim, or the villain, or even the love interest in his little redemption arc. I was the bloody plot twist. Silk dress, arched brow, petty grin, and darling, I rewrote the ending.